March 23, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini 2000 tick chart on the Thinkorswim platform. You don't need to watch this entire video. You can just go down to the descriptions below where I timestamped where I thought I saw some setups, as well as where I actually took my trades if you want to compare my setup or where I took my trades to where you took your trades. So I'm going to go through it a little bit quicker today, hopefully, because there were quite a few setups and trades that I saw. This is what the chart looked like. It looked like it kind of made this gigantic rally up, then rally down, and it chopped within this larger trading range. So this is how I drew up my chart. Now, I didn't really draw this trading range because this is kind of toward the end of the day. You can see it kind of happens here at 12 o'clock. And these are all my trades that you can see. I took a total of 6 trades. I lost on 2 and was profitable on 4. So as I was saying, it looks like there's kind of a trading range, a larger trading range here, but by this time of day, it's already only an hour left of trading that I didn't really think it came into play. So I'm going to go into the trades and look at the setups. Oh, before I continue, let me just point out something. This orange line is the 100-day simple moving average. I don't really use it as anything. I don't use it to trade off of, but if I'm already in a trade and I'm watching a runner, I might take it into account if I'm kind of going, if I took a long and it's coming up from above, or I took a short and it's coming from above on a short and it's coming from the bottom up on the long. I might take it into account if there's coincides with a resistance nearby, because there are a lot of traders out there who do use the 100-day simple moving average and use it as an indicator or just a point of resistance or support. So I just have it on my chart. I know a lot of people don't, but that's just another little indicator for me. Most of the time I ignore it though. There were several measure moves, and I'll show it when I get there. And also I had some trouble finding a good trend line to capture this move down. So I ended up with 3 piecemeal trend lines going down. So this is the pre-market. I did see this gigantic move up and I measured it and kind of put the second one right here, which is this arrow. I don't trade the pre-market just because I'm not awake at that time. So all this is just going to happen without me, and that's all right. Also, since this is happening in the pre-market, I'm not too concerned because the volatility is usually a little bit lower. But I do just draw these for practice when I do wake up and market hasn't opened yet, just to get practice on drawing my trend channels and trading ranges. So the market opens, it kind of consolidates. I see 2 legs down. This trend channel doesn't exist yet. This one does, because I drew this from the beginning, at the beginning of the day. I just saw it cut through and I thought I saw 3 good touches. And this is a pretty nice support resistance up here for the top of this trading trend channel. So I kind of drew this. So this big one existed at the time. These yellow ones don't exist yet. So when I saw my first trade right here, I saw a double top here. I saw first entry long, and then I saw second entry long. So when I took the second entry long, I thought this was a pretty good signal bar. It bounced right off the EMA. The price action is clearly bullish, so I thought there was going to be a good trade. So I actually entered 1 tick above here, and I was going for about 2 points, but it only moved about a point, and then it stopped me out right. Well, let me just go over. Stopped me out on this candle, which is a little unfortunate because I had to sit through this wondering. And then later I realized this is probably a trading range. So I drew, when these guys made this top line here, I drew this and then I just dragged it down to here. At one time I was thinking it maybe right here, but then I didn't like this overshoot and these constant wicks breaking through. So then I ended up down here. So that was my first trade of the day. It ended up red. And then I see a second trade set up and I saw, okay, you know, this is probably a hidden second entry long because I took this as a new high. I saw this as the first entry long because it pulls back and on this candle moves back up, first entry long. Then I saw a second entry long and it bounced off. Now, this yellow line also doesn't exist yet, so I couldn't use that as a key indicator. But I saw this kind of bounce off and I thought, okay, I'm going to take a chance here. It is risky because I'm taking an entry right after the break of this consolidation. So let me just... There's a consolidation here. These guys are all having trouble breaking through the top of this, right? So I'm taking an entry where it might get rejected again. So I will admit this isn't really a good setup and I most likely should have just kind of skipped it. But I was thinking this consolidation, it looks like it might break only because, and this isn't the best reason, I thought all the traders that went short were thinking short were probably had their stops right here. So I thought, okay, there might be enough room to at least get a scalp out, as well as I'm just playing the idea that this is still a bullish move. Again, I don't think it was the best trade, and in hindsight, I probably should have just skipped it. So price action continues to move. You do have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. When this guy forms and these three touches kind of form, I kind of drew this, especially when this guy came about, I drew this as my trading trend channel, and I liked it because it had 2, 3 good touches here. It's a little off here. Probably drag it down just a tad. And it had 2, 3, almost 4 good touches down here. So I thought, okay, this is the trading trend channel I'm going to play with. And then I do see a failed second entry short here. So it's from here, you can see it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Now, this is a pretty decent signal bar to go short with, but it also went, straight up and also made 2 clean legs down already. So I thought, okay, 2 clean legs, first entry short, second entry short. It looks like it's going to fail. So I didn't take this trade though, but I thought there potentially might be a trade here because it also bounces off the EMA, and the EMA for the most part is holding prices, supporting it. And I thought there might be enough room to make it to the top. However, it is kind of at the midline of this channel. So I thought this might have been a trade, and enough room to scalp out, but I didn't take it. Ends up it would have worked. And so it kind of continues along. It moves down and it kind of comes back and confirms the bottom of this trading range. So I see a new high, first entry long, second entry long. Now this second entry long is, I think, is a pretty good signal bar. It bounced off this trend channel, the bottom of this trend channel, but it is below the EMA. So it just kind of gave me a little bit of pause. On top of that, it just had an overshoot. So when there's an overshoot, there's a chance that it might break out past the other side and then come back in. So also I've learned that if you're trying to take a second entry after an overshoot, you want to be very careful, even if it's in the direction of the trend, because it could still, because this is the trend, it's going up. It could still, even though it looks like it's going to be a second entry going with trend, it could still fail. So I was just a little hesitant to try to take a trade right off of here. So the prices continue moving up, comes up, it confirms the top of this trading range, which I'm really happy with now. And then prices continue moving down. I see a measured move here, one leg down, a second leg down. And this is kind of where I take my third trade. So it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long. And I consider this kind of like a triple test because I did notice that when it came down, it touched here. And when this candle formed and closed, I said, hey, it looks like it's touching about 3 times. It might make another move back up. So I will say that, even though this is like a second entry long, it's a good signal bar. It has 2 clean legs down, 1, 2. And there's a possible triple test. It's below the EMA, but I believe that the context was still bullish. So I entered right up here, and it came down, almost stops me out. And then it actually does stop me out on this candle because I entered here, and I had my exit down here. If I actually kept it down here, I'm pretty sure would have gotten stopped out on this candle because this low here is 40.0975, and this is 40.0975. Yeah, so I did have it 1 tick below. I might have survived if I actually kept it below here. But I still believe that this trade was going to work out. So this is kind of an aggressive entry because I took it right here again. And I saw that this is potentially a bounce off the midline of this bigger trend channel that I had drawn from the very beginning. And you'll notice since it opened, it was kind of a bullish bias. Everything has been staying on the top half of this trading trend channel. So I took a hunch and I just saw, okay, 2 legs down. It looks like it's going to reverse up, broke out of this smaller shortened trend channel. It broke up once, and I think it's going to make a second move. So I took an entry right here on the engulfing. I will admit that it isn't the safest trade. It was aggressive, but I thought, okay, I still believe in the bias in the context because it looked like it was still being resisted here. And this is, I guess, would be a 4th test, 1 test more than the triple test. And so I was able to get my scalp, and then I just managed my runner by keeping 1 swing below. And I eventually got taken out up here. So I Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, so my runner got taken out all the way up here when I entered way down here. So that was kind of a cool trade. I don't know that it was necessarily the best, but I just had, I don't know if it's experience or I'm just ignorant and I was just lucky, but I just saw something and I need, well, I didn't know, but I thought that there was more fuel in the tank to go up. So then up here, there is a second entry long. So you see a new high, first entry long, second entry long. But the problem with this, I didn't like the signal bar, which is this guy. It kind of closed, well, closed bearish. And I'm not sure if this trend channel, which is this guy, I'm not sure if this trend channel that I drew is valid. Well, actually, I didn't draw this guy, excuse me. I'm not sure about this trend channel because I actually saw it might be a spike and into a channel. I wasn't sure this was valid for it to move back in. So all these things made me think I better just wait. Oh, I also want to point out that I forgot to mention on this trade, I drew this second trend channel here because I saw two touches here. And actually, if you drag this a little bit further out, it almost looks like it could be a third touch, 1, 2, 3. So then I tried matching the bottoms, 1, 2. It kind of matched here. And so I used that as an additional justification for a potential second key entry point. Now, this is a little bit iffy, I will admit, because, this touch here, I'm basing off of the touch up here, and then I just dragged it down. So again, this was an aggressive trade, but I just kind of went off of kind of what I saw and what I thought was going to happen. Now, again, I could be completely wrong and just lucky that the trade worked out. But I was just lucky in this case, I guess. So then I do see a second entry long here, first high, first entry long, second entry long. Again, I don't like this trade, or I don't like this setup because it's too far from the EMA right here. It's not a very good signal bar, which is this guy, even though it's a small signal bar. And again, I'm questioning the validity of this trend channel because it spiked outside once and it came back in. It's confirming 3 times up here. And then it confirms, I don't know if you really count this as a confirmation because it's overshot, but then it confirms second time here. So all that just told me, you know what? It's also near the highs right here. Just kind of leave it alone. This one isn't worth taking the risk on because it's making close to the new highs of the day. So I left that trade alone. Prices continue moving. Then it kind of reversed. I still see another second entry long here because you count this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long. So the first break of this iffy trend channel because I'm not experienced enough to really know for sure that this is a valid trend channel. And so what I don't like about this particular setup is it's not a good signal bar. It's below the EMA and it's near the high of the day, but it could make another move back up. And it is bouncing off the outside of this larger trend channel, but it just seems indecisive here. It's a little congested, so I just left it alone. Then I do see a failed second entry long here because if you count this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long comes up and it fails. I didn't really like this signal bar just because it looks too neutral. And it is counter trend because right now it is going, it's not really counter trend, but it doesn't feel like it's kind of in no man's land because if I do trade down, it's going with this trend, but this big overall price action has been very bullish, except for this now correction is coming back down. So it just didn't feel right to take that trade. The prices continue chopping, kind of interest in this trading range. I don't have this trading range drawn yet, but I do see a new low, first entry short, second entry short. But I also see a new high here, first entry long, doesn't quite break this guy, second entry long. Now this guy is it's a very interesting setup. I didn't take this, but I just have a few thoughts about it. Now this setup, if it's a failed second entry short, failed second entry long, it's above the EMA though, so it doesn't feel like a failure. It's a second entry short, but it's also above the EMA, so it feels a little risky. The signal bar is too neutral. The trigger bar, which is this guy, it wasn't bearish enough because maybe I want to enter here if it confirmed, but because it also closed above the EMA. So I had to take the next entry on this guy. And when it formed and it did close below, the EMA is a little sideways now and it's coming back into this trend channel. I was just overthinking it and I wasn't sure what I was seeing. So I ended up just leaving this alone. Now, I think in hindsight, if I saw that this was in the trading range, because I didn't have this established yet, then I would have figured that this is near the high. Now, I did see a potential resistance here, but I just saw it as resistance. I didn't really think it was a trading range. But if I did have this drawn earlier enough, I would have felt, okay, there's enough room to make it back down to here. And I probably would have taken the trade probably on this candle because I wouldn't have trusted this candle yet. But, in real time, it wasn't really clear, so I just skipped this trade. Then I do see another second entry short here because at this point I do draw this because when this forms, I said, okay, this is obviously in a trading range now. I say a new low, first entry short, second entry short. And second entry short, I thought this might have been a pretty possible trade because this is like a pretty small candle, in if respect to everything else, as a decent signal bar, this close kind of at the bottom. It's also at the top of the trading range, so I'd be selling at the top. And it's also kind of re-entering this channel now. So it kind of had like two key entry points, this guy, trading range, and this guy near the top. So in hindsight, I think it would have been a worthwhile trade to risk on, but I didn't take it and it just kind of passed me by. So it comes down, confirms the bottom of this trading range, comes back and now breaks through. I do see kind of like a measured move from here to here, or I was looking for a measured move from here to here. Makes it to almost a measure, well, it makes it the measure move, and it comes back up. At this point, I draw this trend channel going down. It doesn't confirm. This is where I take my next trade. So I see a new low here. I see a first entry short, second entry short, but I also saw this trading range is still in play. So this could have been a failed breakout, comes out, fails again. It tries to come back out. And then now I saw this as a failed breakout pullback because I see the first entry short, second entry short. So I took this trade and just kind of, well, let me see. I took this trade. I thought this was a good signal bar. It is running into the EMA, but then the EMA looks like it's kind of changing directions now, and it broke and closed outside this trading range. So I thought it was worthwhile to take a shot. Ends up working pretty well. I didn't get a runner, but it did give me, I think it happened pretty quickly, so I didn't get a runner off of it, but I did get my core and, my core and profit right off of there. So price is moving down. Now it's getting near the bottom of this trend channel, which is originally established from the pre-market. It kind of consolidates. I don't see any good setups that I like. Continues moving down. And here's something interesting that I noticed. All these little moves down are kind of creating all these small little measured moves because I had this measured move, this yellow arrow here, and then I copied it and moved it here. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Copied it again, put it right here. These are all the same size. So it's moving in a very orderly fashion all the way down. So I did this like 5 times. And I just thought, oh, that is pretty wild. I couldn't quite tell what's going on. But I also saw this trend channel, but then I couldn't make it fit with the rest of this price action. So I drew this second trend channel. And so then here I do see a second entry long from way up here. Now, I didn't draw this. When I saw this, it didn't exist, and it didn't exist yet because I needed this third confirmation to have it show up. And I also didn't draw this. So when it came down, I just saw a second entry long, but it's going counter trend. So it's hard to say, it's bouncing off this trend. Excuse me. It's bouncing off this trend channel because this trend channel technically doesn't exist yet. I'd just be guessing. And this is the morning high in the pre-market, and I actually drew another one down here for the trading range. So I was wondering when it came down here for this bounce, was this still valid? Was this trading range down here still valid? Because it was just kind of disregarded it the whole day. So knowing that and just seeing that, I didn't think it was worthwhile to take a trade. It ends up working because there's enough room back to the EMA. And once it touched here and came back down, that's where I drew this channel now. And I drew this channel and I actually had it contacting a little bit higher, just so it'd be 3 touches. And after the fact, I thought, okay, there's actually a trade here, but I didn't know in real time to find this bottom of this channel. So ended up not taking that trade. So then I see a new low here, first entry short, goes up, doesn't make a second entry short till here. So I see a second entry short right here, but I didn't like this in particular too much yet, just because right here, it's the top of this measured move because I saw one leg up, two legs up, and there is enough room back to EMA, but it seems like it made two moves up. I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at, and it broke out of a channel, and it did make two pushes up. So I'm thinking if it made two pushes up, it might be exhausted, it might be coming back down, but it was just kind of a little bit unsure. And to be honest, I just wasn't mentally prepared to take this trade. But in hindsight, I think this could have been a trade because you see two big legs up, and also within this leg itself, you see two little legs up. So it looked like it might have been played out and ready to come back down. It would have been also going with trend at this point. But I skipped it. I saw a new high, first entry long, and I see a second entry long. Now I saw a second entry long failure. I didn't take this trade, but I thought about it at the time. I'm thinking, this is a very bearish bar. Is it possible that it could actually make it all the way down to here? And I kind of kick myself now that I see it, but in real time, when I just saw this one candle, I would just over-processed it because it did form below the EMA. It's kind of confirming a failure of the second entry long. It's a good signal bar, and there's enough room even to the low of the day. So this is kind of a good trade that I just missed out on. So I'm a little bit kind of kicking myself for overthinking it, just not being more present and reacting. So then prices continue moving. EMA is holding prices down. I see a new low, first entry short, second entry short. I don't like the second entry short. It's not a good signal bar. It's kind of within the smaller channel right now, even though it's the top of it. It's just hard to believe because this, kind of touched the top and then came back down. If I were to take a short, it'd be on this candle one tick below. But at that point, it was making this new low here, which made me a little skittish. So I didn't think it was worth it. But then when it made a second confirmation, a lower high, confirming on this trend channel, and it came up and it broke back down, I was thinking, okay, maybe it actually would be a trade here because the bears are still in play. They're still selling off. But, one thing I was a little iffy on, even though I think this is a possible trade, it confirms the second entry. It closed below, or it closed right at the EMA, but then this candle did close. So I kind of ran into the same issue of wondering if I took an entry here, would it be enough room to get out in time? So I think this would have been an aggressive trade if I had taken it. But then also just noticed, and it's being rejected by this and the EMA. But at the time, still wasn't too sure of what I was seeing. So, anyways, prices continue moving down. I'm just watching. I see another second entry short, a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. The second entry short breaks. It's actually the signal bar is right here. The signal bar is actually pretty decent, and EMA prices are it is holding prices to the low. So I thought this was a possible trade, but if I had kept my stop up here, I would have been safe, even if I kept it up here. But I don't think I was mentally present. It's kind of later in the day, and I was probably more likely just checked out at this point. Prices continue moving down. I see another second entry short here, and I draw this trend channel at this point, which is connecting these three touches, and then I try to have it touch as best I can, but I have it overshoot, so I wasn't too fond of this trading channel right now. And I do see a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is a pretty decent signal bar. I think this might have been a possible trade here, just because it also closed below the EMA and made two clean legs up, one leg up and the two legs up. And so it might come back down. There's also enough room to the recent lows. So this is a possible trade right here. Then I just kept watching. It's considered a new high. First entry long, second entry long. I didn't really want to take it here just because this is a pretty terrible signal bar. There's enough room to EMA, but I wasn't sure about the validity of this trading channel yet, or at this point, because even though it touched here and I had it drawing here, it broke out. It was kind of overshooting twice, so I just wasn't feeling it right there. What I did notice is right here at 11:55, all the way to 12 o'clock in the span of 5 minutes, I didn't see any big news items, but this thing blasted all the way up, moved 40 points. It moved from 39.50 to 39.90 in the span of 5 points. I highlighted this just because technically you do have a first entry short, second entry short failure right here. But to try to catch this trade is very optimistic. The reason being is in this span of time, this is 1 minute. This is from 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And then right here is 1201. So to say that you would have caught this, seeing this second entry, failed second entry short, is pretty optimistic to say that you would probably try to chase this up, but this is happening all within 1 minute. So it's pretty dicey. So it's just very interesting. I don't know exactly what happened, but the market got spooked or got really happy and rallied like crazy. So prices continue moving down. It goes into this trading range, breaks out, comes down. I do see this failed second entry short from here. New low, first entry short, second entry short is forming above the EMA. So I'm thinking that prices might be kind of reversing now. And so it's indicating maybe the bulls are coming back in. It's a little far from the EMA though. And I'm just looking for a continuation move of this measured move because I'm suspect there's one leg up here. And so I kind of copied it and dropped it here. So I was wondering if it's going to come back up to here. So this is a possible trade, but what stopped me was it's kind of a little bit far from the EMA. If it'd been a little bit closer, I would have been more happy to take it. So I just kind of sat there and watched, and it creates a new high here. I counted this together as a new high, and I said first entry long. Then I saw a second entry long, but I didn't like the second entry long because this is a pretty bad signal bar, and then the trigger bar closed low. So I didn't really like either of those. So I just wanted to wait for a higher low. This is also toward the end of the day, and I usually don't like to trade at all once it gets this late in the day. But when it provided, I said to myself, if there's a higher low, maybe I'll take it. And lo and behold, the higher low actually pops up for me. So I decided, well, this has presented itself. There's been last few days, there's been some setups that kind of showed up toward the last 30 minutes, and I didn't take them. And I said, if they actually showed up earlier in the day, the same setup, I would have taken it. So today, this setup was presented to me at the end of the day, like before, and I said, if this had shown up earlier, I would have taken it. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take it, this higher low confirmation of the second entry long on a bullish trend. And I took it because I figured there's probably some shorts that got trapped when they decided to go short here. They're shorting right into the EMA. So this probably ticked down, stopped them all out, potentially. Well, not stop them all out. It filled them, excuse me. So a bunch of people might have put their entries right here, shorted them, filled them, comes up. I took my entry right here, and then this candle kind of just like stopped them all out. So then I definitely didn't want to take any more trades after that because that was my sixth and final trade. And it just kind of prices moved up and then just moved back into the close. So that's how I saw the charts today. It was very interesting. I saw a lot of setups. Now I might be imagining things because maybe I'm just looking at junky setups, but for everything that I saw, everything I marked, I mean, there were setups, and certainly there were setups I didn't like, and then setups I did like. But kind of how I saw the charts today. Not really sure what happened right here in the span of 5 minutes, but it was pretty wild seeing that happen. So that's it.